I want to get back to the youth crime crisis, especially as it affects the great state of Queensland, because with the election there only 5 months away, that clown of a Premier, I've got to say, Steven Miles, is actually now playing catch-up on youth crime. He's meeting with demonstrators outside Parliament yesterday, and now he's promised to remove the detention as a last resort clause from the Youth Justice Act, making it more likely that children who pose a threat to the community will now be detained. Here he is from earlier today.
It's my responsibility now that I am the Premier to ensure that our laws and our plans respond to what Queenslanders want to see. And I've heard from them that they were concerned that that policy was putting community safety at risk and undermining confidence in the laws and in the courts. And that's why I'm making this change.
Yeah, good change. Better late than never, I guess, because the opposition leader, David Crisafulli, has been advocating this for years, including right here on this program.
The Youth Justice Act in this state is broken, and the government watered it down 8 years ago deliberately and created a generation of untouchables. We will rewrite the Youth Justice Act. There is a provision in there that says detention must be a last resort. That will be removed immediately.
Let's bring in Trudy Reading, who's an advocate for Voice for Victims. Thanks for joining us, Trudy. First up, your response to getting rid of this detention as a last resort clause, is that the right thing to do?
Look, if that is what they're doing, yes, we do think it is the right thing to do. We've been calling on that for 9 months now, since we first rallied in Brisbane in August of last year. But there is some, I guess, confusion today as to whether or not there's just a change in words and whether or not there's a change in laws. I have heard that apparently the police minister today in Parliament said that it was about changing perspective, was the word perspective instead of changing the laws. Or perception, was the word, instead of changing the laws.
Yeah, well, as I showed, the opposition in Queensland has been calling for this in no uncertain terms for a long while. So it seems like Steven Miles has just picked this up. He's following their lead. He hasn't given the detail. It needs to be clear, doesn't it? And the other thing that goes with this, of course, is if you're going to have more youth in detention, you want to make sure you've got the right facilities to handle them, because there's going to be a lot more in detention given the levels of crime we've seen over recent months.
That's right, yeah. Look, what we're hearing is that they don't have more beds or more facilities to put these children. So the next question will be, if they do, in fact, make this law effective, where are they going to put these kids? That's the big question. We've been calling now, again, for 9 months for there to be rehabilitation programs for these children to be in, and instead we're just hearing about big detention centres when we're being told by experts that big detention centres don't work. You need smaller facilities, ones where they are assessed. It's a bit like if a child's in your lounge room with a knife at 3 a.m. in the morning, there's clearly something wrong with their home life. There's clearly other things going on in their life, and how do we assess that? Just like you would if someone was going to the hospital with a broken arm.
Yeah, they want some close attention, some decent attention, not just chucked into some huge facility. Thanks for joining us, Trudy. I appreciate it. Trudy Reading there from Voice for Victims. We'll keep on that, because he needs to make good on this promise, not just get away with a vague undertaking like this, because youth crime is a hell of a problem in Queensland.